Good morning, and thank you, members of the press and media who are here with us today. This is a historic and very important and exciting moment in North Carolina's history. It is a day that members across faith denominations and beliefs have come together to stand in solidarity with the North Carolina State Conference of the NAACP and Democracy North Carolina as we unveil and began our statewide multi-issues-based, nonpartisan voter engagement campaign. Today, we will start with the president of the North Carolina State Conference of the NAACP, Reverend Dr. William J. Barber. He will be followed by the president of Democracy North Carolina, Bob Hall. And then we will have, representing a diverse section of faith leaders, come before you. Jennifer Copeland with the North Carolina Council of Churches will stand and give comments on this campaign, and we will also have Paul Anderson, who is the president of the Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance for Wake County, and then we will have the retired Presbyterian pastor William Bodisco Monsing, who will come, followed by Rabbi Diener, who will come, and then Reverend Jimmy Hawkins will also come, who is the pastor of Covenant Presbyterian. We also have, who will come and give remarks, the pastor of this wonderful historic church, Martin Street Baptist Church, that has always stood on the right side of social justice and has welcomed us in this place to allow us to launch this very critical and important campaign as we fight to preserve and protect and advance and exercise our most sacred right that we have in this democracy, and that is the right to vote. Reverend Barber.
Thank you so much. Let me first of all thank Reverend Laws, our executive director, and all of our friends who gathered here this morning. I do want to take one step back, and since he just slept in and she mentioned it at the end, and allow Dr. Johnson, who's been a great voice, a great friend of the movement, to welcome us here to the historic Martin Street Baptist Church.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say good morning to you all, and I really appreciate this opportunity to come, not only here, but anywhere, to talk about something that's so important for our communities and for the people that all of us represent. I'm looking forward to a joyful day, morning, joyful press conference. Looking forward to what Reverend Barber has to say about this issue. I understand we're still in litigation, but still, it doesn't stop us from doing what we're about to do. Hopefully, we'll do a follow-up in January, bringing Reverend Barber back to bring the community out and try to educate them on what is taking place with voting rights, so they will be prepared come November 2016. So I welcome you here to Martin Street, and God bless you all.
(1868), Reverend J.W. Hood, an AME Zion preacher that would become the president of Livingstone College, the bishop of the AME Zion Church, joined with Samuel Ashley, who was a white Congregationalist, and they insisted on some new things that would be in the North Carolina State's Constitution. The constitutional right to public education, and the constitutional protection of the right to vote. Speaking on the floor of the Constitutional Convention, J.W. Hood said, "The right to sit in a jury box the right to give evidence in the courts, and the right to put a ballot in a ballot box are rights under God we demand and we must have. We are here in 2015 and headed toward one of the most, if not the most important elections of our time. The North Carolina NAACP, our partners, Democracy in North Carolina, we have determined to fight in 3 ways to preserve the right to vote. We will fight in the legislative halls. We will fight in the courts, and we will fight at the ballot box. We gather here today in this broad fusion coalition. It is December the 1st, 2015. 60 years exact to the date that Rosa Parks, after a long day of work, in the wake and the aftermath of Emmett Till's death and the acquittal of his killers, that she decided it was time to sit down, that a new fusion coalition, a new reconstruction might stand up in America. She sat down on that bus 60 years ago and ignited the modern day civil rights movement. They didn't stay off 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 381 straight days. Because, as Dr. King would say on the first Monday mass meeting, there comes a time when people get tired.
That's right. That's right.
And when they get tired, they don't quit.
That's right.
They fight back. On this historic day, we are launching the first part of our fight at the ballot box for 2016, a campaign that our staff with Democracy in North Carolina and in partnership with our other faith leaders and our other 200 coalition partners, Moral Monday, HKOJ People's Assembly, denominational leaders, we are entitling It's Our Vote and It's Our Time.
That's right.
Standing here flanked by Ms. Mary Perry, who's registered thousands of people in her lifetime, one of our plaintiffs. Mother Courtney Patterson, a vice president who works hard down the east working to preserve the vote. It's our vote. It's our time. Rosa sat down that we might stand up. Too many sacrifices have gone on for us not to fight for and exercise the right to vote. Today, we launch 80 days of voter registration. We will launch today from December the 1st until the end of voter registration, 30 days before the primary, and all out registration of voters. A few weeks ago, we met and had buy-in from the AME, African Methodist Episcopal Church, the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church, the United Church of Christ, the Unitarians, the General Baptists, who have made such a commitment that they've asked us to speak at their biggest gathering at the beginning of the year, which is their Martin Luther King celebration, January the 8th, to further push this massive voter registration. Imams from the Muslim community and rabbis from the Jewish community. If they could build fusion coalitions in the 1800s, we can build them in the 21st century. Not only can we build them, we have built them. And so today, it's our vote, it's our time.
That's right.
There are more than 600,000 unregistered white voters in North Carolina. There are more than 280,000 unregistered black voters. There are more than 100,000 unregistered Latino voters. And we know that in this state, for instance, with Latinos, 58% of Latinos in North Carolina are U.S. citizens. 89% of those are under 18 are U.S. citizens. We understand that an all-out registration of voters and participation at the ballot box can make a difference. It's our vote, and it's our time. You will hear from faith leaders today, and then following them, I will also call up our Latino brothers and sisters. Let it be clear, and let it be known. We've gone to court together. We've gone to jail together. We've gone in the street together. And we will go to the ballot box together.
My name is Bob Hall. I'm the Executive Director at Democracy North Carolina. Democracy North Carolina is very pleased to join with the NAACP on a comprehensive, massive voter engagement program for 2016 that involves 4 key components: voter education, voter registration, voter protection, and voter mobilization. We are already working at the grassroots with our grassroots volunteers across the state to encourage county boards of elections to provide strong early voting plans with evening and weekend hours. In the next 2 weeks, over 30 counties will be meeting to hold meetings that decide their early voting plans, and our volunteers will be there. We're already involved in voter education. We know that the photo ID law, if it's not completely stopped in court, will begin in the March primary. And we must educate voters with a message that regardless of all the confusion and all the complexity, you can vote. In fact, you must vote. You must push back and show your resistance to any effort to make voting harder. You do that by voting. You can vote. We will educate, we will register voters through faith centers, through barbershops, beauty salons, social clubs, schools, workplaces, fraternal organizations. We will deploy hundreds of volunteers to the polls in March to help voters, to protect the vote, to document how fairly this new law is being implemented, who is harmed by it, and why, and we'll take that evidence into court. We will support thousands of voter-led projects all across the state. We'll provide voter information and vital information for their organizing. We'll provide technical assistance. We'll provide organizers and organizing assistance. We will engage over 3,000 churches and faith centers in the largest Souls to the Polls campaign this state has ever seen. Our work is cut out for us. We know that over 250,000 African American citizens in North Carolina are not registered to vote. We know that in 2012, of the registered voters, 400,000 black registered voters, they were registered, but they did not vote. An even larger number of young voters, young white voters, Latino voters, and other people of color did not show up to the polls. We must show up. When Rosa Parks refused to leave her seat 60 years ago, she sparked a movement. But the Montgomery bus boycott didn't just happen magically. It did not happen. It did not come out of thin air. Organizations were in place in Montgomery organizing, getting ready for that time. for the right time, for their time. In less than 48 hours after Rosa Parks was arrested, and they didn't have an internet, they didn't have cell phones. Within 48 hours, the neighborhoods and churches were blanketed with thousands and thousands of leaflets calling for the mass meeting that led to the Montgomery boycott. It was launched and it lasted. People were prepared. They were educated. They were mad. And when the time came, they acted. This is our time. We must be prepared. We must speak up. We must act. We must use our vote. We must help other people use their vote. This is our time. This is our vote.
So now we're going to bring forward our faith leaders that I mentioned earlier. And we ask all speakers, if you will please keep it to 1 minute. So we will ask first if Jennifer with the North Carolina Council of Churches. Thank you.
I'm Jennifer Copeland. I'm the Executive Director of the North Carolina Council of Churches. 80 years ago, faith leaders in North Carolina stood up and cried out against the injustice of segregation and racial discrimination, and the North Carolina Council of Churches was born 80 years ago. 60 years ago, Rosa Parks sat down and assumed her place of equality on a Montgomery city bus. The American Civil Rights Movement became national news. Today, I want to point to the twin towers of biblical imperative and constitutional rights, two very different documents that both proclaim the worth of every single person. Scripture assures us that we are created in the image of God. That image is imprinted on every human face, regardless of nationality or ethnicity. The Constitution affirms the human right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Because the Bible tells us we matter, and because the Constitution guarantees our freedom, the North Carolina Council of Churches is joining our voice across this state with all who will work diligently to see that every person who can vote is registered to vote, and every person who is registered to vote has the chance to vote. That's right. For the next 80 days, we are focused on voter registration. We are calling on all of our member bodies, and we are legion, all of our member bodies, to talk to their congregations, to work in their communities, to register everyone to vote, to remind them of the rights and responsibilities in this democracy that is the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend.
Hello, my name is Paul Anderson. I am the pastor of the Fountain of Raleigh Fellowship and the president for the Raleigh Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance. The late Reverend Dr. Benjamin Elijah Mays used to frequently quote a poem that he said, "I only have but 1 minute, but 60 seconds, but eternity is wrapped up in it." I stand here today in the few moments that I have to say, let's take the few moments that we might make this 80 days one of the greatest 80 days that's ever been in our lives. I stand here to say that my wholehearted support of this effort, along with the Raleigh Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance, I stand here to challenge all clergy that are within Wake County, those who are part of our alliance and those who we'd like to bring into the ranks, that we might go out and we might register people to vote, but not only register them to vote, but get them out to the polls. I stand to encourage every last one of my brothers and sisters in arms that we might do this, and we will do it together. Amen. And we will look back at this day and see that this was one of the days that was just as powerful as the moment and the day and the time in which our sister sat down for all of us so we could stand up here today. And I challenge all of the clergy that we might go out and do this work together. Amen. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Willem Boeddis-Mossink, a retired pastor of the Presbyterian Church USA. In 1986, I stood before a federal judge in Norwich, New York, raised my hand and promised to rescind my previous nationality and to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. And in November that same year, proudly I walked into the voting booth to put for the first time my vote down for a person I liked. And then I began to realize that the percentage of people who are voting in this country was far less than my previous country. The Netherlands is 85% of the registered voters vote. Here, maybe 54. And I'm here to say, let's raise that percentage. It is an insult to our democracy that so few people indeed come out to vote. And part of that is the problem is that people are not allowed to register, or have not been able to register, or need to be encouraged to go out and go into that voting booth and register and make that vote in order to show the rest of the world that indeed we are a democracy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And therefore I'm here to encourage my colleagues and everybody else who wants to increase the amount of people who can vote and encourage them to come out and make their vote count.
Yes. Amen. 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 Thank you. Yes, sir.
Jimmy Hawkins, pastor of Covenant Presbyterian Church in Durham, North Carolina, and also on the executive committee of the North Carolina NAACP. Basically, we're called upon pastors to do a couple of things, but one of them in particular is to go out on each week and to engage in prayer, to pray for the success of this movement, to gather your prayer groups, to gather your Bible studies, your choirs together, and to pray that the Lord continues to move in this movement. Secondly, we need the pastors to encourage their members to register to vote, and for the pastors to make the announcement themselves during the time of worship when people are coming together. One, to make sure that each one of their members is registered to vote, and also to make sure that their members are getting others to the polls. For when people vote, they get a living wage. When people vote, they get health care. When people vote, they are treated with dignity and integrity. Therefore, it is of vital importance that we participate strongly in this movement.
Amen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Rabbi.
I'm Rabbi Lucy Dinner from Temple Beth Or. I'm here in partnership with rabbis across North Carolina because we believe that the right to vote is fundamental to our democracy and to our world. In the week ahead, we will begin the celebration of the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah. Hanukkah is the first fight for that right, for democracy, for freedom of religion. Hanukkah means dedication, and as we begin that festival of lights next week, we are dedicated, congregations across the state dedicated to upholding our right to vote, to registering people to vote among our congregations and among all congregations, peoples of faith and peoples of no faith. Because without that right, we have no voice. It is our voice, it is our vote. Thank you.
Amen.
Is that who they picked? Okay. Ms. Palmer, Maria Palmer, would you come? And I want to ask our Latino brothers and sisters to come and around and join her, because there is one thing we want you to know in this state. You will not divide us.
That's right.
Fusion politics. In the 1800s, it was blacks and whites that came together. Changed the South, changed the nation. Civil rights movement, blacks, whites, labor, Latinos, young people came together, changed the nation. In the 21st century, there will be no tricks played on us. We understand that the same persons that are fighting voting rights are the same people fighting immigration rights, are the same people fighting against living wages, are the same people fighting health care, are the same people fighting against public education, are the same people fighting environmental justice, are the same people fighting against women's health, same people fighting against criminal justice reform, and same people fighting against our LGBT community. And we have made a pact in this state. If they are cynical enough to be together, we are smart enough to come together.
Buenos días, muchas gracias por esta oportunidad. Estamos aquí para defender nuestros derechos ciudadanos. We are here to defend our citizenship rights. I also became a citizen by reneging on my former citizenship and swearing 1 year later than my brother in '87 because I wanted to help shape the future for my children. After I became a mother, I realized that it's not just about me, it's about all the future generations, and without voting, exercising our right to vote, we cannot ensure that this democracy will survive for the next generation. So that is why we are here. And the fact that we may have an accent or we may come from a different country of origin, the Constitution actually was written by people who came from diverse nations, who were themselves immigrants, not just third and fourth generation. Some of them were themselves immigrants and realized that unless everybody has first-class citizenship, then we cannot have a true democracy. So we do not believe in second-class citizenship, and I have been called twice to be a juror and both times dismissed right away. The only Latina, and one time the defendant was a Latino, and I was gone there so fast. So I know what my black brothers and sisters are talking about. And we will stand together and fight together and register folks together and pray together and vote together.
My name is Iliana Santillan, and I'm the community organizer out of Pueblo. North Carolina is the 11th largest Latino population, has the 11th largest Latino population. 58% of Latinos in North Carolina are U.S. citizens. That's over half. 89% of Latinos under the age of 18 are U.S. citizens, which means that the Latino vote is only going to get stronger. There are about 100,000 unregistered Latinos in North Carolina, and we're going to do everything it takes throughout the next 80 days to register as many Latinos, as many people as possible, to get them to not only register, but to make it out to the polls and vote. Together, we will make 2016 a memorable year because our voices count, and sí se puede.
Amen. Sí se puede.
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede.
So we're going to open up.
Let me make one more thing. I'm sorry. One person came in that I want to mention. Two people. Come up here. Reverend T. Anthony Spearman, who is our third vice president, but also is the liaison to the AME Zion Church. I want to recognize him today, and is also the incoming president of the Council of Churches, to understand how connected we are in this 80 days, and then all the other things that Bob additionally mentioned, which we'll be talking about in a year to come. My friend, Reverend Davis, come up, is the leader of the United Church of Christ in North Carolina. Some of our other denominational leaders knew they could not be here today. We met with them several weeks ago, but he stands here representing a denominational leader. And we're calling on all of our denominational leaders to then send a message down through the ranks of their denomination that we join in this massive 80-day voter registration campaign. It's our vote, it's our time. where is he?
He's coming up now.
Brother Muhammad, Oliver Muhammad. We also are bringing together, thank you, Reverend Lord, our Muslim community. We will not be divided. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is fusion politics. And so, Imam, would you want to encourage brother Muslims and sisters to register? Yes.
Yes. Peace be unto Raleigh and to all the family here today of all faith groups and races and creeds. I'm here to encourage those individuals who are Muslim to get involved, because we have to separate ourselves from the violent extremists who have come into our religion and have hijacked it. And the best way for us to make ourselves distinguished is to become a part of the mainstream of American life. And what better way is for us to cast our vote for those persons who are inclusive in their thinking and who are not pushing out the poor and those people who are coming to this country trying to find and seek the same freedom that we all love. And finally, I would say to all the young people that voting is no joke.
That's right. That's right.
Can you hear the rhyme? Voting, vote, because it's no joke. It's serious. Your future, your life, your education, and your community's future rest in you casting your vote in the season to come. Thank you so much.
Imam, peace be unto you. Can I ask and Reverend, all of the faith leaders, just grab hand. Everybody grab hand. I want this picture to go out all over the world.
All right.
Everybody, got them up? If you can. We will not be divided. Rosa Parks, our mother, sat down that we might stand up. It's our vote. It's our time. 80 days. Voter registration. Everybody. White, black, Latino, all faith. Everybody. It's our vote. It's our time. And Reverend Laws wanted me to make sure to mention one correction for those that are streaming media. You can register up to 25 days prior to the primary. So that's why it's 80 days. We will be going. Now, we have some other announcements. We'll talk about those in January. We didn't want to cloud everything. We wanted this one message to go out. 80 days. 80 days of voter registration. Everybody. It's our vote. It's our time. Bob, if you join me here so we can field questions.
We're going to field questions. One quick additional thing. So we also, Reverend Barber mentioned Miss Mary Perry, who is one of the lead plaintiffs in our voting rights case, along with Ms. Rosanelle Eaton. And one population that we want to make sure that we send the message, and where is Olinda Gillis? Olinda.
Come on up, Olinda.
Olinda and Ms. Sylvia. We have what is called WIN, which is Women in the NAACP. And we know that historically black women have carried the vote for a certain party throughout the states. But in particularly, we're sending this appeal to our WIN sisters and all black women in North Carolina. One, to continue to register, to continue to vote. But we are concerned, as I read in an article recently, we want you not just to engage those sisters who are more likely to sit and watch electoral politics and scandal, but those who are more likely to sit on the sidelines and watch empire. So to make it plain, we need to go into the neighborhoods that many of us have been blessed to have been brought up out of, and we need to register our sisters and our poor women, all races, who are still working just to make ends meet, barely surviving. The low-wage women, the low-skilled or low-wage workers. So we're sending this appeal out to win, and we're sending this appeal out to all of our sisters, all of the women who pretty much have helped to keep this democracy in place.
So in essence, what the message is going out of here is everybody. Whether it's the women, whether it's the men, whether it's young people that are 18, whether it's Latino, whether it's black, whether it's Asian, whether it's Native American, whether it's gay, whether it's straight, whether it's Muslim or Christian or Jewish or Hindu, whether it's unemployed or employed, whoever it is, this is a democracy. And the goal of those who engage in divisive politics is for us to talk the language of separatism. Fusion politics talks the language of fusion, of unity. That's why no longer when we go to the legislature, for instance, we don't go over there just as the NAACP.
That's right.
Or just as people from Eastern North Carolina. There is an intersectionality that we must understand. That we must understand. And so let me have Bob to come up at this time as well, and we're going to field questions if there are any. Then we're going to ask the media to step out for a second, so we're going to have a little briefing among all of our partners. Are there any questions from members of the media that you have at this time? I know somebody. Anybody?
They're fully educated.
Yes, sir.
My name is Sergey. I work with Acquisition. I have a question maybe for Mr. Bob. Is there any particular approach that you're taking to bring Latinos to this movement?
Yes. First of all, inclusion here this morning. And we had a massive meeting 2 weeks ago in Goldsboro, actually, with the full contingency of our Latino brothers and sisters. But I want to mention something that might seem a little odd. Every now and then, your adversary does the best job at bringing people together. And I'll just kind of leave it at that. This state has done some things in recent days that have been bad, but have been the best thing to bring people together. And there's nothing like that will bring people together as when you try to put people out of a country and a state that says we are where we're all invited in this democracy. So the pain that has been caused by many of the actions of our governor and legislature has made black folk, Latino people, poor white people, wherever we go over this state, understand that we cannot afford to sit out or not participate. And so our Latino brothers and sisters are fully a part. That's why you see this coalition here today of the full plan. So in every effort that Bob mentioned, all those things, and I don't want to get too much into that because I want the message to stay on today, 80 days. That's what I want. Sometimes we need to be like single shot. You know, single shot voting, y'all remember that when you used to single shot vote? So today is a single shot message. And the message is that Latinos and black people and white people of all faiths and different organizations, for the next 80 days, we are united in registering people to vote. That's the big thing we have to do right now. Any other questions? All right. If there are not any questions, then we want to thank all of you all for coming. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Thank you.